I'm going to be telling some of the stories out of When the Smoke Goes Straight Up. I retold the stories in this book from my grandpa, Edward Edmo, and Rusty Houts, my uncle, and Bessie Judson, who was my grandpa's first cousin. They told most of the stories, but a lot of them were told by other elders. And a lot of the stories were told by all of the people in our tribes. And the basic stories are the same, but some might be told in a little different manner. The stories were told in the wintertime when the smoke would go straight up out of the teepees. Kids could learn the values, the culture, and the history, what went on before, and how the Indian people would explain how things came to be. When he told the stories, the kids had to say, uh-huh. That meant that they were listening. And if he didn't hear any uh-huhs, he knew the kids weren't listening. Most of them were told about Ijaput. Ijaput's the coyote. Coyote was a bad guy. He was always trying to out-trick and outwit somebody. And Coyote would say, it's not about strength, it's about wit. Can you outwit somebody? And so that's what Ijaput was always trying to do, outwit and outsmart somebody. And so that's what most of the stories are about. So this story is called The Goose Girl. Ijaput and the Goose Girl. And my grandson, Bodie Edmo, did the illustrations for this story when he was in the 3rd grade. So I think he was about 9 years old, and we're real impressed with his artwork. Ijaput makes himself a goose. One nice crisp fall day, Ijaput was out looking around this lake. He was in search of some flint. He was going to make some nice new arrowheads. But while he was searching, he seen some geese out on the lake. And there in the center of the geese was this young, beautiful goose girl. And Ijaput knew right away. He thought, I want that goose girl for my wife. And so Ijaput went through this ritual of dancing and singing and making himself into a goose. And he sang this special song, and after changing into a goose, he started strutting around in front of the other geese, hoping that that goose girl would notice him. And she did notice him. She was attracted to him right away. And so she thought, oh, he is such a handsome Nagutna. And when she told her older sister about him, her sister became worried because she hadn't seen that handsome Nagutna before. She says, Ijaput and the young girl was swimming around together in the lake, and he says, oh, you are such a beautiful goose girl. He says, I want you for my wife. Oh, and it made her so happy because she thought he was so handsome. And she says, yes, I want to be your wife. But the older sister, she wanted to protect her. And she says, you watch out for that Nagutna. He doesn't look right, and we haven't seen him with our herd before. So you better watch out. And the other geese were out eating bugs and enjoying the warm sun. And so he snuck off out to dig some roots and dig for some worms so he could eat and be full. But the young girl, she didn't listen to her older sister. And she married the young, handsome goose. And the next day, the young girl had to tell her new husband, she said, well, it's time for us to fly south. Will you fly with us? And he says, well, of course I'll fly with you. She says, well, we're going to go to a new country and we'll take off in the morning. And she said, and we'll stay in that new country for fall and winter, and then in the springtime we'll come back. He says, okay, that sounds okay. And so he was very happy to fly with them. And again, the older sister planned to keep an eye on him because she knew the little sister was not safe. But the next day, the geese took off and they fly in this V formation like geese do. And so the older goose girl thought, I'm going to get behind Nagutna because I don't trust him and I haven't seen him with us before. So she, instead of flying in front of little sister, got behind Ijaput because she thought, I'm going to keep an eye on him. The next day they took off and they flew and they flew and they flew. And by the end of the day, he was having a hard time keeping up, but he made it. So he was so happy when they stopped to eat and to rest on the lake. And he knew it was a struggle, but he thought, oh, I can do this. I love my new beautiful wife. And so the next day they took off again And he was having a bit of a trouble trying to stay up with them, but he thought, I can do this, I can do this. And then when they stopped to eat, of course, he snuck off to get some more rodents and some more worms, and the geese were on the lake eating bugs. And still, the older sister was looking out for her younger sister. And then by the third day, he could not keep up with them. And all of a sudden, his tail feathers flew off, and there was his big fluffy tail. And then his wing feathers flew off, and he thought, oh no, everything's starting to show. And the older sister called out, Sister, sister, look at your new husband. He's losing all of his feathers. And by then, also, his pointed ears started sticking up. And the wife got scared because she thought, oh no, I'm going to have to get rid of my handsome husband. And she knew by then, oh no, he's not a goose. And then she said some magic words and made him turn back into Ijiput. And right away he started falling out of the sky. And he fell and plop, he hit the ground. And when he hit the earth, it just knocked the air right out of him. And he lay there all night. He could not move. He hit so hard. And then early the next morning, he woke up and he found himself on this desert. It was a big prairie, and there was a lot of sagebrush and a lot of rocks. And to this very day, you'll find Coyote out in the desert in the sagebrush, and you'll find old Ijiput, and he's still howling because he's feeling sorry for himself. And especially at night, he'll howl at the moon because he lost his wife, the beautiful goose girl, and the rat's tail fell off.
I love it. I love that.